Welcome, my friend. It's really
Thank
lovely to have
you.
you here. So,
Oh,
Ash,
I'm just hoping, yeah, I'm hoping we can help, right?
yeah. So, Ash, can you just start by talking about yourself, your family, who you are, all that kind of thing?
Okay, I'm Yashica Padia. I've known Gladys ever since we were students. I'm a mom of triplets. We're at home in isolation at the moment. So I've got three 20-year-olds who are doing some work from university at home. They're all three studying at UKZN. Umesh is a pharmacist and he's at work. He's an essential service, so he's been a bit on the front line
Yeah,
these few weeks. And but we're all doing well. We're comfortable, trying to keep busy.
yeah,
It's quite unusual, this whole situation, but we coping. I
yeah,
guess, we quite okay compared to so many people who
yeah,
are finding this really hard.
yeah. So, Ash, when you first heard about the virus, what were you? Do you recall how you felt? What went on in your mind, and how did you feel the seriousness of it from the beginning?
I think at the very beginning, when we first was aware of it, we realized that there was this um, pandemic that was on the horizon.
Mm.
But I think while, for a few weeks when we first heard about it, South Africa was not yet included in it. It hadn't arrived in this
Yeah,
country as yet. So I think we were quite trying to keep informed, trying to make ourselves aware, but I think sort of comfy in the knowledge that we aren't yet affected and
yeah,
so it's okay still.
yeah,
And I think those first early days, I did try very hard to read up and inform myself,
yeah.
but we were quite comfy knowing it's not here yet. But when I think the first incident we did hear of in South Africa, it did start becoming very real, and
Mm.
we started trying to equip ourselves with what we needed to know, how our lives would be affected. And I think that's when we realized that this is something we must prepare for, and
Yeah.
that's how we responded, I think, as a family, even myself.
And you mentioned that someone close, someone you knew well, well, in fact, she is well known, and she was an epidemiologist in South Africa who died,
Yes,
but she was a family friend,
yes.
right?
Yes, it was a friend more of my husband's and myself. But what happened in those early days when it started in South Africa, we started equipping ourselves with the knowledge that if in South Africa, what we'd have to do, how we might be affected, would we have a lockdown, and what would it mean, those sort of things.
Mm,
But in the first few weeks, Professor Geeta Ramji
mm,
passed away. She was very involved in the research at the Medical Research
yeah,
Council. She
yeah,
was a well-known researcher
mm,
internationally in HIV, TB, etc. And she passed away having returned from an overseas trip. And it was in the very early days of the virus
yeah,
coming into being in effect in South Africa.
mm,
And I think that was quite daunting because you realize that it affects everybody and anybody, that as much as we prepare ourselves for it, we all don't have control. And I
yeah,
think that was quite scary because she's a friend of
mm,
the family
mm,
via my husband.
mm,
Her husband and Umesh are pharmacists and they know each other for many years.
mm,
And that brought home the reality of the virus.
yeah, yeah,
And I must say, it was something that took me a bit of time to process. It was a bit challenging, I think, that bit of news. And, I think we realized at that point, right, start coping with this, start learning how to live with this and do everything that we have to adjust and
mm,
change
mm,
because this is real.
yeah, yeah. And so, how has this had an impact on your life, like on a daily basis? What are you doing differently, and also what hasn't changed?
Oh, okay. I think, well, I've got three children who are at university. My
Mm,
kids are in third year at UKZN, and they all were asked, university closed, I think, a week before the lockdown. So they've been at home and trying to do some work online. And so that's changed a bit, having them work from home and, um, you know, everybody adjusting to the new routine.
Mm-hmm.
And at the moment, we're coping with it. Unfortunately, the university is still trying to structure exactly how the online learning is going to take effect with. And I think by next week, they're going to be in a more formalized structure.
Okay.
And so that was a bit of change for us in the beginning. But I think 4 weeks down the line, we all quite settled.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, the second question was?
What are you doing differently?
Oh, well, obviously, we're missing a lot of the things that we did, which was normal to us.
Yeah.
So we're trying to exercise, like walk around the garden, walking around the pool. In the early parts where we were at home, we were in isolation, swimming a little bit. It was warmer.
Mm-hmm.
So that whole physical routine, because we're not, generally, I'm very active. We're out, we're doing a lot of things, involved in a lot of work. So now being confined to the house, a lot of our routines have changed. But it's also meant a lot of quality time with the family.
Yeah.
So we've done lots of home stuff, the baking together, my daughter, myself, the children, I think getting them more involved in chores, etc.,
Yeah.
because now there's lots of hours in the day.
Yes.
And then a bit lazy too, quite, because we're quite limited. There's so much of work we do. There's many lazy days. But I think the nice part for me is also the husband's coming home earlier, because during this period, and for the first time in, I think, my whole marriage of over 25 years,
Yeah.
I've been having a husband come home at like 5 o'clock in the
Oh,
afternoon.
okay. Oh, that's awesome.
New.
Yeah.
And I think so. It's been a bit more quality time, although at times I think there's a bit of cabin fever with 3 kids and everybody being a bit, adjusting to this life at home and nowhere else. And we're missing many people. We're missing the friends, the family.
Yeah.
But comfortable, I think, at the end of the day, with lots to be grateful for in our circumstances.
Yeah. Okay. Ash, is there anything you think you'll do differently in the future because of this?
I think many things, and I'm hoping the world will do things differently in the future. I think a lot about this virus have made us aware of how much of consumption there was in the world, how much we took for granted in the world. And I think we must all take cognizance of the way we lived in the past and try to change our lives one at a time, each one of us, and try to make this world a more harmonious, healthy one. We've been destroying so many things in the environment, in the climate. There's been so many changes which we're ignoring. We've been so consumed in the things that we want, our material needs, our own personal comforts, that I think a lot of this has to do with us having taken so much for granted. So I'm hoping that in future, we are all more cognizant, including myself, my family, in how we do things, how we purchase, how we consume, how we care for others, and how we care for the environment. One of the positives that came out, I think, in South Africa was the way that we responded as a nation. We saw tons of NGOs and ordinary people trying to help those that needed more help during this virus, trying to assist with the hampers, with services to the poor, services to the most vulnerable, many charities, and people were looking beyond race. People were not looking at religion. If we look at the way the Dennis Hurley Center took care of the homeless, so many religious organizations, there were no boundaries. Everybody came together to help this very vulnerable group. And we can learn and we can take a lot out of experiences like that and go forward after this. This pandemic is not going to be over after lockdown. We're going to be living with it for many months to come. We need to then embrace all those positives in the way we live hereafter. And I would be more than pleased to see some changes like that, where we stop seeing people for their religion, their race, their color, privilege, and start living like one community. Many, many things South Africa did right after many years. We are very pleased with the way we handle this. And I'd love for that new ethos that we're seeing to be taken forward hereafter.
Okay, and Ash, what do you think are the main lessons we can take from this situation, both personally and broader?
I think the one thing that's come to the fore is that we are all very human. We're all equally vulnerable,
Mm.
and as the species, the beings, we all are equal.
Mm.
Let's remember that
Mm.
this virus affects rich and poor,
Mm.
you know, healthy or unhealthy. It can still affect us all, and we are all equally vulnerable in this time.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
must also all be aware that. Um, you know, there's no differences, and that's one of the things we must take forward, that we all equal. We always say that, but we tend to put ourselves in little boxes, and we do things all differently. But I'm hoping that going forward we're all going to treat each other differently. We're going to respect each other more, and we're going to actually become kinder and better to the world, to each other, in the way we relate to people. And let's hope that our humanity, compassion come out more evidently now and hereafter than the way we have, I think, in the past.
Yeah. Okay. And then the biggie, the last question. In what way do you think the world has changed irreversibly because of this, or will have changed irreversibly because of this?
I think in some degrees, yes, life is not going to be the same. Life is not going to be the same. And I think one of the things is going to be our physical interactions with people. I think human beings generally, we're very social. We love the hugs and the kisses, and we love being in big gatherings. We love it when we in big concerts and in sports events, and even in our homes when we have like weddings and functions or birthdays. We love all that.
And I think South Africans are particularly huggy.
Yes, I don't know, but
and hugs.
yes, we love it. And look at our students in the universities, the kids in school. They must do this hug thing in the mornings when they say hi to their friends.
Funerals.
Exactly. And of course, in the community that we part of, the weddings are such a big thing that, gosh, I mean, you have a small wedding, it's like tragic, like,
Yes.
really sad.
What's wrong with you?
Like,
Going against
why?
culture.
100 people, I mean, really, don't you have family? So I think things like that we're going to miss, and I think those things are going to change. So I think that social interaction it's just going to have to change. And I think with a lot of people there's going to always be that caution. And physically, I hope we don't turn into a whole race of cold fish, because that's going to be very sad. But at the end of the day, I think that's one of the things that will change. And I think I don't know how this is going to affect travel in the world. I think travel has always been a big thing, and it's one of the things we want to do in our lives. We want to see the world. We want to see how others live. We want to learn from those experiences. We want to develop ourselves in terms of what is there out there. And I'm not sure how travel will be affected. And as I said already, I think
Sorry about this.
Is that okay? Yeah. So I think many things in the world is going to change, but I don't think irreversibly. I think a lot, sadly, is going to go back to how it was, and we're going to get disappointed. We'll start seeing signs very soon of the way things were, and that's going to make us think that, hey, have we not learned anything from this? But possibly not irreversible, I think. But I am hoping that there are many things that I'm seeing that's telling us that life isn't going to be the same. I think, for another thing, positively maybe, we may see less traffic because we've learned in a very short time how easy it is to work from home.
Yeah, exactly.
There'll be hopefully less pollution resulting out of that, less traffic, and also how, when we are, stuck in our homes, how much we can do ourselves. So I think in small ways and in very big ways there'll be changes.
And I guess we need to hold ourselves accountable, right? And our governments and our big business accountable for that, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
The corporates, many of the corporates came on board and really came to the party trying to do things. But at the same time, many were trying to make a quick buck out of it,
Yeah.
you know. And we're hearing constantly of some of the big corporates who have been taking us for a ride with essentials, you know, things like masks and sanitizers, etc. Surely people should have come first, but it was profit before people. And maybe there's some lessons to learn there. And I'm hoping that things like that. But I think at the same time, you know, what is sad is many small businesses have suffered tremendously. They may never reopen again. And but it may change the way in which we work this world.
Yes.
It may make people more capable of finding their own ways of surviving. You know, different methods, more innovation.
Yes,
and we are in a technologically driven world, so
yes.
maybe we must look at how that can make life better for all. Yes. So positives and negatives, I think, but it yes, you know, hopefully we won't be taken for a ride in this with something as unfortunate as a pandemic, where we get abused by big companies. And look at our president, who I think are really, really, you know, come at the moment, come at the man. He did come forward as a leader. He put the people of this country first, which I think for me was very important.
Yes,
and
he and his team.
So I hope that will not end post-pandemic.
Yeah.
That yes, and that we see more effective leadership in this country. I really, really would hope that that would be a positive change for South Africa.
Yeah.
Far more effective leadership, government that works for the people.
Yeah.
That's been lacking. And I also must note that the way in which, like in almost 2 to 3 weeks, we pulled off very important decisions and implemented them, which we didn't do so well in the 25 years in government. So I'm hoping that we've learned that if we can do things in a month or in 3 weeks, start doing it now. Let's see a turnaround in that, you know. And I'm really hoping that there will be no fraud and corruption in the monies that are being allocated. I really hope that we won't see again. That we won't find them looting. That state grants and hampers, we're hearing things that there won't be tenders.
Business, big business.
Yes.
You know, like we tend to think of corruption only as in government, but big business has been responsible for so much corruption. And even the fact, the hiking prices of essential goods, that is a travesty. And I hope the ombudsman, I hope that we find a way of tracking that and finding big business. Really, I think that's one of the biggest travesties.
Yes,
because
I think the big monopolies, I think it's shameful. You know, they use their experience to exploit people in this time. And yes, you're right. I just hope, as much as we don't want to see corruption in government anymore, we don't want to see it. It would be so ideal if we could actually change the way we did things in the past and do things differently hereafter. There's lessons we learned. We must take those lessons forward.
Anything else, Ash?
We've seen the importance of our healthcare workers because we are totally dependent on them now. And I'd like to see people who are essential services that we were so reliant on and couldn't do without now. We see them being recognized in a better way going forward. I saw one post somewhere on social media that next year, let's not have Oscar awards and Grammy awards and all that. Let's start acknowledging the real heroes in this pandemic. Let's start acknowledging the nurses, the essential services, the healthcare workers, pharmacists, you know, our refuse collectors, and all these people who we realize that while we're at home, we can't do without them. So if those things change, what a lovely world it would be. Yes. We can hope.
Okay.
Yeah. So Thank you, Jeez.
Oh, thank you too. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your lovely input.